We have a massive Toronto Blue Jays free agency update to go over today as a new report has dropped from Jon Heyman revealing a shocking new Jays target that they are pursuing. We're going to break down exactly who that is and discuss what this means going forward for the Jays free agency. But we're also going to break down some new details that have dropped surrounding their pursuit of other free agents. Stay tuned for all that in this episode, folks. But before we get into it, a quick reminder, hit that subscribe button. Our goal is to hit 15,000 subscribers before New Year's. We're a couple days away. We're getting close to that goal. So if you want to help us towards that goal, make sure to hit that subscribe button. But ladies and gentlemen, it's been a rough offseason for the Toronto Blue Jays. It's been a rough few days, especially. And reports are starting to fly surrounding more Jays targets. And I know the Jays are rumored to be in on everybody, but this one is one we haven't heard yet until, of course, Jon Heyman dropped this pretty big piece of news. So there's 4 teams in the mix for and in on slugger Pete Alonso. Giants, Mariners, Mets, and the Blue Jays. And this is very interesting because as you're looking at it and you're thinking, okay, the Jays have been in on almost every free agent. And there's a lot of things to discuss with this, but they of course just missed out on Corbin Burns. They missed out on Teoscar Hernandez. They've missed out on a lot of the free agents that have been available thus far. They are also now in on Pete Alonso, and this is a very interesting one. Obviously, he would fit this team perfectly in the sense of what he brings to the lineup regarding power. He hits for a ton of power, one of the best power hitting first baseman, one of the best power hitting players in the entire league. And it makes you start to wonder, why are the Jays going for a first baseman / DH? And when you start to think about it, it makes a little bit of sense. They missed out on a lot of their guys that they're going for, whether that is, like I mentioned, Teoscar Hernandez, Corbin Burns, even though he's not a hitter. They might now, in order to make this team competitive, have to switch up their plan entirely and go for a guy like Pete Alonso. And you can see this here from an article. They're seen as the front runners by numerous sources of the land Santander. At this point, I think Jays fans will be happy with either or both, considering this offseason is shaping up to be eerily similar to last offseason. Alonso is a right-handed batting first baseman who slashed 240, 329, 459 with 34 home runs in 695 plate appearances. Overall, finished with a 2.1 F4 and a 122 WRC plus, down from the 46 home runs he hit in 2023. Now, Pete Alonso, really good player. And he bet on himself last year in 2023. After the season, the Mets offered him a huge contract, or after 2022, one of them offered him a huge contract. He declined. It was a 9-figure contract. But now he's getting offered, and we'll dive into what the contract looks like. But coming off of a down year, of course, he can play first base and DH. So if the Jays don't think they're going to be able to get one of the other, or maybe even make a trade at this point, because a lot of the main guys are off the market, if they're not going to be able to improve their team dramatically, they might be forced to make a move for a guy like Pete Alonso, who again is a DH. But the thing is, he hits for so much power. 34 home runs last year, 46 the year before, 40 the year before. And depending on how good of a year Vlad has, he would lead the team in home runs. And as you're looking for what this team needs right now, they desperately need home runs. There's no doubt about it. They need power. They traded away, we know, Vladimir Guerrero Jr, Teoscar Hernandez, all those guys. So if they are now going to switch, and he is a 4-time All-Star star, he's a finalist for MVP a couple of years, but of course, one Rookie of the Year. He's 29 years old. If the Jays are thinking, hey, we got to go desperate mode, Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro are in the final years of their contract. If they're thinking we have to be desperate, we really have to make a push, this is the best available hitter on the market, you go out and you make the swing for a guy like Pete Alonso and you figure out the rest later. Do I think it's a great fit? Hitting wise, yes. Positionally, not really, because then you're either considering moving Vladdy to third base, or you just, not platoon because they're both right-handed hitters, you kind of just switch up the DH between Vladdy and Pete Alonso, which would be very interesting. It would make things a little bit complicated. But at the end of the day, if you have a chance to add a 40 home run hitter and he is willing to come to Toronto, all these free agents haven't been willing to come to Toronto, like we'll dive into in a little bit here. And if Pete Alonso is the guy who is willing to do that, you move things around and you make it happen. And again, his best season was his rookie season. Speaking of Guerrero, the big question is, does Pete Alonso even fit with the Jays? Guerrero Jr. is the best first baseman in all of baseball, largely in part due to his bat, but he grew up playing third base, and a move there could be a realistic option. We know that last year, this past season after the deadline, he played a bit of third base, finishing the season with 100 innings in the hot corner, the most since his 824 innings at the position in his rookie season. Increasingly, his defensive metrics have improved since then, as he had 1 outs above average in the small sample size, which was significantly better than the minus 20 outs above average he had at 2019 at third base, as outs above average is one of the worst totals in the league. So this would mean, again, if you get Pete Alonso and Vladdy is willing to move to third base, and he wants to move there, your team looks a lot deeper offensively, because then you have Vladdy at third, Bichette at short, Andres Gimenez at second, Pete Alonso at first. That is an unbelievable infield offensively. And of course, you have the best defender in baseball in Andres Gimenez and Dalton Varsho in center field. But I don't think that, for one, the Jays are going to want to move Vladdy to third base full time. I think it would be more of a, per case type thing. And two, Is that something that Vladdy is willing to do? Now, it could increase his value as he heads into free agency. So maybe if it's something he's pushing for, it could make sense. Or they sign them, you play one of them at first base, you play one of them at DH, and you kind of just rock that. Regardless, he would be great regarding offense. Is the fit there? I'm not entirely sold on the fit being there regarding the Jays actually pursuing him and getting him because of the logjam at first base. We're very curious to see what you all think about this in the comment section down below because it's extremely interesting. It reveals a lot about where the Jays are right now. They need to make a move, and if it's Pete Alonso, someone that they weren't pursuing prior to all of them, them missing out on a ton of free agents, I wouldn't hate it. It would be a very interesting yet a bit contradictory considering they already have Vladdy at first base, and of course Pete Alonso would be a first base. But let me know down below what your thoughts are on that. But some more details came out and surfaced surrounding Corbin Burnes as well. You can see this here. Corbin Burnes could have signed a 7-year, $250 million deal with an AL East team with no opt-out, but decided to stay home in Arizona for the 6-year, $210 million deal with an opt-out after 2026. And Bob Nightingale clarified that it was the Orioles and the Blue Jays that were the two of the teams who were talking record-breaking contracts. And they also showed strong interest in Gleyber Torres before he signed with the Detroit Tigers. And this was, of course, illustrated throughout our videos and throughout Ben Nicholson-Smith and Ern Zoing's, podcast and through the Intrada Vidi. They all were saying that the Jays were showing strong interest in Gleyber Torres, but it seems that they show strong interest in every single player that's available in the market at this point. And for them to miss out once again on a free agent, in this case, Corbin Burnes, who, they offered a lot more money, $40 million more than $40 million guaranteed more than the Diamondbacks did. It was interesting. But at the end of the day, Corbin Burnes, he has a family. He just had twins with his wife. So he's trying, and he wanted to stay in Arizona and California. So he wanted to be on the West Coast. He wasn't going to come to the East Coast unless the money was drastically different, which it kind of was. But the Jays didn't have an opt-out in their deal. Obviously, the Diamondbacks did, which gives them some more flexibility. And Corbin has a full no trade clause because he obviously wants to, not be able to get moved with, trying to get settled down with his family. So it just sucks. They missed out on another two free agents, and they had the highest offer for Corbin Burnes. They were in on Gleyber Torres. Not too worried about Gleyber Torres, especially since they, the addition of Andres Gimenez, who again is going to be a very good player. I think Jays fans are underrating that acquisition, even though I think if that is the big acquisition of the offseason, it isn't going to be enough. And finally, regarding the Diamondbacks, there's a reason we didn't have much insight into them. It's because according to a source, the Diamondbacks were not aggressively pursuing Burnes, but rather the pitcher came to them late in free agency, expressing a desire to pitch in Arizona. He did not want to be a Toronto Blue Jay. He didn't want to be on the East Coast. I don't think he wanted to be a Red Sox. He went to the Arizona Diamondbacks and said, hey, I don't want to be on the East Coast. They're offering me a lot of money. Can you guys work a contract out because Buster Posey and the Giants aren't willing to give me the $200 million that I'm looking for? And the Diamondbacks, shout out to them. They went all in. They got him, and they now have the ace of their future for a very long time to pair with a very young rotation. But at the end of the day, the Jays need to do something. If it's Pete Alonso, I'd be very happy. You figure out the rest of it after. You figure out how the positions work, and you go out and you get the best power hitting first baseman in baseball alongside, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is also one of the best power hitting first basemen in baseball. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Hopefully they make a move here soon. If they do, we'll keep you updated with all the latest news. Thank you guys for watching. See you later. Cheers.